So your man is Dana White today. Why is he successful?
Dana fucking White, mate.
Go
Uncle
on.
Dana. I think to understand Dana today, you've got to go back to who Dana was. To be perfectly honest, right? He used to be a doorman at a hotel, but what Dana did very well, growing up, was one, he took advantage of opportunities, and two, he networked like a bitch. This man is incredible at networking, just talking to people. He genuinely, Dana's a people person. You see the way that the media portrays him, the way that social media portrays him, Uncle Dana. Well, he's become Uncle Dana now, kind of the rules with an iron fist. But this man, when you actually watch how he does business, he's incredible. Takes no shit, of course, but he's built connections over the years, and he's just great at it, and he's leveraged those connections. So I can't remember the name of the brothers. It's the Fertitta brothers. I think he was friends with them growing up. These guys were incredibly well off. And when the UFC came up for sale, actually, he didn't even used to work for the UFC. He used to manage the fighters. And I remember watching the whole UFC documentary. There's a bit of it basically where he's talking to the owner and he's like, "Why can't you pay these guys more?" And he goes, "Well, I'm broke. There's no money in this. There isn't any." And at that moment, he goes to the Fertitta brothers and he goes, "I want the UFC might be on the table to the Ultimate Fighting Championship might be on the table to be bought." So they buy it for $1 million, right? And $1 million is a lot of money. But what he did incredibly is that because he's used networking and he's used his relationships and he's built that over time, and it's a part of him as an individual, they gave him like 15% for him to manage it, run day to day. And he turned that into I think it was a 2 billion or 4 billion operation.
4 billion it got sold for.
4 billion it got sold for the first time. Acquired by a
IMG.
Yeah, is IMG, right? Or CAA, one of them. RE Gold's company. And
Are they called IMG? I don't know.
Whatever it was. But they're owned by Endeavour now, and completely private. One thing that Dana's done well is that when you watch the UFC, everything that you watch has Dana's seal of approval. Everything is in-house. They do not outsource anything. They've got great teams. He's built a really good core group of people to the point where in a lockdown, this man was basically the only sport on screen. He had the complete world watching fighting. And he was only able to do that because he rules with an iron fist. And he was able to put it on when there's a problem, he finds a solution.
And they did it safely.
And they did it safely. I don't know how many cases there were, but compared to other events that have happened, like Silverstone or these special.
But the positive tests they did have, they contained them immediately.
Incredible. I think you can watch the whole UFC behind the scenes stuff embedded, and you can see how many tests they do and the things that they go through. But Dana's done incredibly well at two things: one, networking; two, taking advantage of opportunities when they arise and just seizing the moment and going with it; and three, betting on himself. He knew what this thing was capable of long term. This was not going to be an overnight success. Remember, the UFC was around in the 90s, right? That's when it was the Ultimate Fighting Championship. And now he's marketed it so well, right? To the point where it's not MMA anymore, it's UFC. Oh, you fight, you do UFC. When actually it's a sport. And when you think about the Ultimate Fighting Championship, when you think about the UFC as an entity, you don't look at it like a league, which is what it should be. Because the UFC isn't a league. The UFC is an entertainment company. So they're not subject to the same rules as, well, I mean, this is subject to debate, but when you look at it like as a business, it's not subject to the same rules as like Bellator or something else, which is a league where they pay their fighters more. He's able to contain that. And you see through the media, you think you see what these fighters are paid. They're given behind the scenes, and he looks after his people, right? And sure, there'll be people that say they don't and whatever, but I truly believe that if you watch and you look at the UFC business model, it's incredible. Now, who's trying to copy it? Eddie Hearn. Dana's built over 20 years the biggest sport on the planet. It's got the biggest upside. You know why? Football, you still need a ball, and you still need 2 goalposts, and whatever it is, right? Or 4 goalposts. Basketball, you need a net. Hockey, you need a goal and a puck and some sticks. UFC, don't need anything. MMA, you need your fists. That's it. It's intrinsic to our DNA as humans, and that is why he's put all his cards in one, and he's realized, and he hasn't leveraged a sport. He hasn't leveraged an opportunity. He hasn't just leveraged an opportunity that's arisen. He's leveraged human DNA when you really think about it, and that's what separates him from the rest. Because that man is working 24/7. He will pick up a phone call any time of the night. You see, well, he says it, but this is all hearsay. But the man works like a monster. Does not stop. 24/7, 365, and he's able to do whatever he wants. He can build, he can build a hotel in Las Vegas. They have all of these incredible plans. Why? Because he's networked, he's leveraged opportunities, and he's bet on himself, and he's taken advantage of the scene that he's created, and he controls it. That's why the UFC is able to do what they can do. That's why F1 was able to do what they could do when Bernie Ecclestone and all of the craziness that happened then. Because one man ruled with an iron fist. And that's what Dana does so well. That's why he was able to put on events during lockdown. And that's why I think he's an incredible, successful business person. And surprisingly humble. He's just a kid out of Boston, isn't he? Sports the Patriots. He's like you and me. It's just that he's worth a couple billion or 100 million.
To your point about leveraging relationships, even his relationship with the Nelk boys, Full Send, it's very clever because now you're... Oh, my dad's coming.